When it comes to lighting, I think it's probably one of the most important things for your video. I mean, without lighting, you probably can't produce a really good image. So today, we're gonna talk about some basic lighting setups that you should do for your video production. But before we begin, make sure to like this video and definitely you wanna subscribe so you can see more future content from me. Lighting does so much more than just expose your image for your camera. With the right lighting setup and the right temperature, you can change the mood and maybe even change the image itself. In a way, lighting design is an art and a science. Now in this video, I'm not gonna break it down all the way because quite frankly, I don't know everything about it, but I'm gonna show you some common lighting setups that'll help you get by when making your videos. 3-point lighting is the first and probably the most basic lighting setup that any filmmaker learns. It's also one of the most boring. A lot of professional cinematographers and gaffers, they're gonna probably scoff at the idea of doing 3-point lighting because in a way it's a little restricting. There's not a lot of texture and not a lot of moodiness to it. But for some basic YouTube vlogs, then it's gonna get you by. 3-point lighting uses 3 different light sources at 3 different points on your subject. First, there's your key light, then your fill light, then your edge light. The key light is your primary source of lighting. Typically, it's placed about 45 degrees away from your subject, and it's supposed to light up a majority of your subject. The fill light is your secondary light. It essentially helps cut down the harshness of the key light. You want to place the light on the opposite 45 degree of your subject, and then you want to have it at a reduced brightness. The main thing is you don't want to overpower or to be matched with the key light, or else you lose some texture and it looks too flat. The final lighting is edge light, or in some cases hair light or backlight. What this does is create separation between your subject and the background. Another setup you can do is 2-point lighting. This is definitely going to help cut down on cost and cut down on setup time. And with 2-point lighting, there's 2 different ways you could set it up. The first is a soft key with a harsh edge. You essentially want to place your key light about 45 degrees, or heck, you could even place it directly in front of your subject. But you want to make sure that it's diffused and spreads the light pretty well. Then when you set up your edge light, you want to make sure it's really harsh. So that way, make sure it gives that separation from you and the background. The other 2-point light setup you can do is a side-by-side. Essentially, the side-by-side setup is just the key light and the fill light. So you just want them both at 45 degree angles, just shining on you. This will give you a little bit more of a flatter look, but nonetheless, it'll still work. Now I'm gonna assume that a lot of you out there are doing 1 light setups, and that's fine, you can get away with it. But if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have lights or you need a light, then follow some of these steps. Natural light is gonna be your best friend. If I were you, I would just set your camera up just a few feet away from the window and use that to fill in your face. But you also have to be careful because if your camera is not set properly, then it might be too overexposed and come off really harsh. One other option is you can place your only light directly in front of you, but if I were you, I would have it farther back so that way it's not as harsh on your face and it still lights you up pretty well. Now another setup you can try is to spread or bounce the light as evenly as possible. You can point the light at you and then direct the light to the ceiling so that way it'll spread on you. But this can be tricky because it depends on how big your room is. And on top of that, if your lights aren't really bright, then this trick might be a little bit hard to pull off. So out of all these setups, which one's the best? Well, it really all boils down to your budget or just what you're working with. Depending on how many lights you want to buy or how much you want to set up, then really there's no right answer. For me personally, I would say just have at least 2. If you guys found these lighting tips useful, you definitely want to like this video and subscribe so you can make sure you get more future content from me. And you definitely want to follow me on Instagram and definitely leave a comment below. Tell me what lighting setup is your favorite and how many lights do you use on your current shoot. So until next video, see ya.
Okay.